Hello, guys, and welcome to another session of the TC Leadership Academy. My name is Travis Van Dusen, and I will be your instructor for this section of your teaching. Today, we're going to talk about becoming a manager of influence. Becoming a manager of influence. You know, it's one of the most important things that I believe I have ever had to learn in my management leadership career, and I believe what we're going to share with the next couple of sessions is something that is going to be potentially life-changing to the way you lead and the way that you manage people. You know, John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. You know, here's the reality. When the real leader speaks, people listen. You know, another way of saying this is basically saying when your influence increases, your leadership increases. You know, as we kind of jump into this idea of how do we influence people, there's a couple of things I want you to understand. Is we want to talk about perspective, and I like to use a beach ball for this example. So we're going to throw this in real quick, and I like to give this example. You know, as I showed this to you, you know, you see one side of this beach ball. You know, if I was to ask you what colors you see, you would probably say, you know, you see green, red, and blue. But if you ask me what I saw, I would have to tell you I see white, yellow, and orange. And the difference is what we see is based on our perspective. You see, everybody we come in contact with is going to see the world differently than we do. They're going to have different skill sets than we do. And based on how they see the world and how they see things in their lives is how they're going to react to you, how they're going to communicate with you. And many things are different. You know, skill sets are different. Personal values are different. Past experiences that happen to us drive how we are different. And as we learn to influence people, one of the most important things I tell people is that it's very important to understand that everybody we lead, everybody we attempt to influence, it's going to look a little different for each person. So the goals for this training overall is to help you better understand influence. And the second part of that is we want to help you learn to influence others. That is our goal over these next couple of sessions. So today we're going to go through something I'm calling your inventory for influence. Your inventory for influence. So what we're going to try to do here is we're going to ask some questions, and you're going to have a PDF to follow along with that. I believe that if you follow through these questions and you ask the questions and you reflect on them, this will help you in your ability to grow as a leader and as an influencer. The first question we want to ask is, who do I influence? You know, the reality here and the principle that we're going to teach under this is, as a leader, I attract who I am, not what I want. You know, I've known so many leaders, and I've been in this position myself where I wanted a certain characteristic out of the people I led. I wanted certain expectations. I wanted a commitment. I wanted them to be friendly with the customer. But here's the reality. For us to be able to expect those things, we must reflect those things to the people we're leading. You see, if we want people on our team who have good judgment, we must possess good judgment. If we want someone who has the ability to encourage people on our team, we have to be encouragers. So at this moment, I really would want you to take a moment and maybe pause the video. And I want you to write down the 3 or 4 major characteristics that you are looking for in a team member. And here's the part that hurts the most. After you write those 3 or 4 things down, I want you to actually ask yourself for real, you know, do you possess those characteristics? Or are you probably lacking in some of those areas? You know, for me, there's a lot of times, even now, I still expect things from my team members. In all reality, I probably am not doing my best in those areas. So we're going to reflect. We're going to ask questions like, you know, do I influence leaders or followers? You know, do I influence thinkers or doers? Big picture people or small picture people? Do I tend to attract people who are very self-centered or other-centered people? Do I tend to attract negative or positive people? I mean, how many of you have known somebody that seems like everybody that becomes their friend or comes in contact with them is negative? It's usually because they possess a negative attitude themselves. Insecure or secure people. You notice that insecure people tend to attract other insecure people. Successful or unsuccessful people. Casual or passionate people. givers or takers? Or my favorite one, are you attracting eagles or are you attracting turkeys? What are you attracting in to yourself? The second question we want to ask ourselves is, how do I influence others? The method that we use to influence others is often the thing that really drives our success and whether we're going to be to influence people. The principle here is how I influence people will determine how long and how effectively I influence them. So let's go through a couple of those real quick. Most people, when they first start out their career as a manager, they tend to lead by force. And this is simply, there is no choice. It's in the decision. It's my decision. We're going this direction. And we know ultimately that does not lead to a successful outcome. Or maybe it's intimidation. It's my way or the highway. I have my expectations and that's the way we're going. Or maybe you've gotten a little bit smarter and you've begun to try to influence, but maybe for the wrong reasons of manipulation. There will be a winner. There will be a loser. Or maybe you've grown and you're now positional. I'm in a leadership position for the first time. And this is when people follow you because they simply have to. You're the boss. Or maybe you've grown a little bit more and you're at that point where you're in an exchange mindset where you're finding ways for both people to win. But really where we want to get to in this session is where you are leading by persuasion. We follow because people want to. We don't force people to. They follow because they want to. And the most important one is number 7, is respect. We follow because the leader requests us to follow. And they respect the influencer. So moving along, I want you to ask the questions as we're going through these. How do you currently influence people? Which one of these most represents who you are? Let's be honest. This is the way this goes, right? We have to have complete honesty through this process if we're going to be successful. So number 3, how many people do I influence? The principle here is simple. As a leader, the number of people who I follow is based on my level of influence. Here's the thing. Everyone influences someone. I don't care whether you are a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, or you are the CEO of a company. You are influencing somebody. It may be your children. It may be, a bunch of people in a company. But you're influencing someone. But the reality is few people influence a lot of people. And the reason is primarily because of one reason. You see, every person has a leadership potential, and then they have the actual leadership level in which they are operating at. Everybody has a potential that they want to reach, but then they have a potential, then they actually have a level of where they're currently operating. And really the difference between these two lines is very thin, and it's really 3 reasons. And those are, number 1, your ability to lead. If you're able to lead and you are able to lead well, then you will naturally have influence and your leadership level will rise. The second thing, though, is just as equally important is what is your willingness to change? Or do you have the ability to pivot and to move in a new direction when it is deemed necessary? And the third reason is, do you have a desire to grow? Many managers get to a point in their career where they no longer want to grow. And what do we normally see? We normally see them begin to stagnate and they begin to kind of fall apart and they lose the influence that they once had. Fourth, moving along here is, when do I influence others? Timing is key as we go through the influence. When do you choose to try to put the influence cap on as a manager? The principle here is our value of significance rises when influencing others at a time when most needed. See, as good leaders, as good managers, we have the ability to know when we need to be influencing the people around us. We know we need to put that hat on and really be able to pull influence in the organization. Or Winston Churchill said it this way. He says, there comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which the person was born. That special opportunity, when he seizes it, will fulfill his mission, a mission for which he is uniquely qualified. In that moment, he finds greatness. It is his finest hour. Or I love what Napoleon says here. He said this. He says, Napoleon understood this. He said this well. He once said, I have noticed in every campaign that I have fought, there is a key segment of time, somewhere between 13 to 15 minutes, in which the battle is won or lost. I focus on that segment of time and I win. See, leaders, they're readers. They can read the room and they know when influence is necessary. You see, leaders are readers. So leaders, they know when there's teachable moments. They can see the moment, maybe you're sitting around with your team and maybe you've just kind of had a service failure or something's has not worked out as planned. And they know that's the moment when they have an opportunity to make it a teachable moment. They know when to kind of pause and take the team together. And instead of making it maybe a negative moment, but taking time to making it a teachable moment. They also know when there's breakthroughs coming close. They're very close to a breakthrough. There's a place where they're getting ready to push through and they know when to push a little harder and get the team moving. And they know when those moments are. And they also understand timing. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on in these sessions about timing. But leaders are readers. They're able to read the room. The reality is breakthroughs in organizations happen for 3 reasons, and really 3 reasons only. As you begin to influence people and you begin to try to catalyze the time around you, people change for these 3 reasons. Number 1, they hurt enough, they have to change. Things are so bad that they have no choice but to change. Number 2 is they learn enough that they want to change. And that's where we want our people to be, right? We want to educate them to the point that they realize that allowing you to come in and influence them in a positive way creates a better work environment for them. Or they receive enough that they're able to change. And that is the area in which we want to operate. We don't want to wait till someone's at a position where they're hurting so bad that they have no choice. Moving along to question number 5 is, why do I influence people? And this is such an important question to ask yourself as you join a management team, as you lead people for the first time, is why do you wish to lead people? The principle here is simple. Why you do something will ultimately determine what you do. The right motives are crucial to people in leadership and how they function. And it's the basis of trust. We're all going to walk in moments where people may question our character. They may see that maybe they're not sure, but motives are usually attached to something specific, to a situation for a short duration of time. Character, however, is connected to the heart. So we can have moments where maybe our motives can be questioned, but ultimately it should only be for short periods of time. And then there's a recovery phase. If you find yourself constantly in a situation where your motives are being questioned, this is a time where it's a character flaw, and we need to work on that. So continual wrong motives is a result of bad character. So I want you to pause here and ask yourself, why have you chosen to lead? Why have you chosen to be a manager? Why have you chosen to take on the responsibility of leading others? The answer to that question will determine your success as a leader. And the 6th and final question we're going to ask for this session is where do I influence others? Too often people feel that they cannot influence others because they're not in a leadership position. Remember, position doesn't make the leader. The leader makes the position. That is something that you're going to hear consistently if you go through any product from the TC Leadership Academy. You don't have to wait till you're in a position of leadership to lead. Influencing people is just as powerful as a title. Leadership mistakes often happen, and these are the kinds of things I've often heard from the middle of the pack. Middle management, supervisors, and all the same, right? They say things like this: I'm not at the top, I can't lead. Leadership is influence, not a position. When I'm at the top, then I will lead. When I finally get the big corner office, then I will lead. But here's the truth. What you are preparing for today will be what you are tomorrow. You have to begin preparing now. And the last one here is if I was at the top, how many of you have heard this? Oh, if I was at the top of the company, if I was the leader, then everything would be great. But here's the thing. If people don't follow you now, they're not going to follow you then. And actually, I have one more here. It says, when I'm at the top, I'll be able to do everything. And here's the thing. As I've grown in my leadership, I've actually found the higher I go in leadership, the less options I really have. Because I'm now responsible for leading people. I'm responsible for managing not just myself, but everyone around me. So as we wrap up this session for today, I want you to go back and ask each of these questions and work yourself through this PDF that we've provided for you and ask these questions. These questions will be something that you will continually reference throughout the rest of these sessions as we go through the different areas in which we need to build and edify ourselves to become great managers of influence. So I look forward to working with you guys in these sessions, and I hope that we can add value to you. Thank you so much, and we will catch you guys in the next session.